Good evening, you crazy metalheads and you rockers in this crazy world, as I keep on telling you that we live in. I'm Al Ditton. I'm with Underground Noise Webzine. This is webisode number 96. If you're not subscribed, I would appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. Hope you're keeping the horns up for metal. Tonight, I've got the pleasure of interviewing Pat Ranieri from the legendary band known as Hellwitch. Welcome, Pat.
Ah, how's it going?
I'm good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing doing pretty good. Keeping it brutal, practicing the guitar here behind me. Probably can't see it, but warming up for our tour in about a little over a month. And yeah, trying to keep my hands and arms fit and trim for years more of playing, hopefully.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I would like to ask you first off, what keeps you fit for playing guitar?
Um, well, I'm not as fortunate as some people. Like our other guitarist, JP, he can pick up the guitar after not have played for days or whatever weeks, and he's warmed up in a few minutes. And me, if I don't practice every day, I'm not really warmed up. So practicing every day, and I play a little bit of tennis, believe it or not, and that helps me to keep my mind going quickly to keep up with the parts.
That sounds like a fun hobby.
Yeah, yeah, tennis is cool, definitely.
There any other hobbies that keep you occupied? Like say going to the gun range or lifting weights?
Let me look at my wrist here and see how much time we have left. Other hobbies. I don't know if you maybe have heard, but since 1984, basically since I started the band, I also am a concert video collector. And I have now probably about 13,000 videos in my collection, and I have a website, and I trade and I sell videos, and I still stay a little bit active with that. And I also collect movies, and I collect movies on Laserdisc and Betamax tape and VHS, and of course DVD and Blu-ray. So as JP likes to say, you and your obsolete formats. And I'm like, yeah, that might be right, but I see it more as a collection of important things from man's past.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Old school is the best way to go. I mean, I used to got some anime on VHS, like Record of Lodoss War.
Good shit, man. Yeah, you got
You
to
know
have
it.
the analog. I mean, I'm not gonna knock digital, but it's nice to have cassettes and vinyl and tapes of things. It's always cool to have, and to have those players as well. I'm a big supporter of the retro formats of every kind. So I totally love it.
That's so
And
cool.
so, yeah, in answer to your question, collecting movies, collecting concert videos, doing a little bit of tennis, and yeah, between all that, it pretty much fills up my days,
That's really
definitely.
cool. I mean, I collect the same amount of stuff. I still collect CDs, but my next question, I was actually feeling that same vibe last night when I told you that I'd like to interview you and such. And I was thinking, what if this guy's old school like me? I mean, what do you think sounds better nowadays, analog or digital?
It's funny about 2 hours ago, my wife and I just happened to get into that discussion. I don't know why. And it's so funny you should ask that. So yeah, literally 2 hours ago. And she said, she said, remember when you went from uh vinyl to cassette? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do remember when cassette was the new big thing. And she said, remember cassettes kind of had more bass than vinyl? And I was like, yeah, cassettes had more bass than vinyl. So that that was a pretty interesting thing she brought up there that I hadn't really thought about really ever before. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I like digital. And as she said, she's like, well, digital's clearer. It's usually clearer. And I said, yeah, I'm good with the clearness. I'm like, I could add the bass with the EQ later, but digital to me is clearer, but I still, will listen to things on listen to cassettes. I have my cassette deck there and my record player. I should say turntable. I think that's the proper newer term. But yeah, I have my turntable right there too for my vinyls. So yeah, I still, get into all the formats, but I like personally I like digital. But I mean, I still have CD players in both of my vehicles, and it's still, I'm not over the fact that newer vehicles don't come with a CD player. That kind of bothers me.
Yeah, that's definitely baffling. I don't like the idea either.
Yeah, man. I mean, you got to have a CD player in the car and, be able to pop in a CD. And that's kind of, I have the CD books in my car, and that's how I roll.
That's what's up, dude, for sure. You're talking about some tour coming up that you guys are going to be doing. Is that here in the States or is that in Europe?
Well, yeah, it starts in Charlotte, North Carolina at the I think it's called Milestone or Mile High or something. And that we start the tour June 7th, and then it's a week long, and we end up in New York City at the St. Vitus. And it goes from North Carolina to Virginia to DC to Maryland to Pennsylvania, to New York. Um, and I think that might be all the states we do in, on those 7 dates. But yeah, it's just a short little tour up the East Coast to kind of, get things warmed up for the new album that, coming out soon.
Would you like to talk more about your new album? How would you compare it to stuff in the past? Would you say it's a lot more aggressive?
Uh, no, I wouldn't say it's more aggressive. I mean, it's I don't know. It's well, let's put it this way. The debut album, I wrote all the music, and all the lyrics and titles, which lyrics and titles I always do all of that anyway. But I wrote all the first album. Then the second album, Omnipotent Convocation, we kind of wrote that as a band, like all of us kind of kicked in parts and, worked together as a team and put that together. And that was really cool, but it was a bit of a different direction than, what I kind of have in my head, because you have four guys collaborating rather than one. And on this new album, Annihilational Intercension, it's probably 90% me writing all the music. So it's a little bit more, I don't know. I can't describe it really. I just say it's I mean, to me, it's it's more like the first album, because there's you know, it seems to me that the riffs are more, and I hate to say catchy, but the riffs, some of the riffs might be more memorable, and they have a lot of personality to them. And I mean, the songs on Omnipotent were really good and, aggressive and ripped your fucking face off, like, in their own way. But yeah, this is it's a bit different. It's a bit of a departure from the last album. And I mean, as a fan, I always know, what I say, and fans say, oh, the first album's the best. So I mean, I know people will always say, oh, the first album's the best, this one's not as good. But you know I like it a lot. And one of the good things about the new album is that the songs span from 1985 until now. There's the song Hellwitch, which I wrote in 85, and then I kind of shelved it. I just kind of lost interest in it and, threw it away. And I brought that back and finished it, wrote a couple new parts now, but, had my mindset back as much as I could in 1985, and, added a couple new parts. But it's basically a song from 85, just like Torture Chamber, that which is also on the new album, because that never really was recorded with a respectable sound, respectable production. So there's songs from 85 and then songs like Delegated Disruption and Epical Cessation are from right before COVID hit. And then when COVID was over and we were practicing again, we finished up Epical Cessation. So the songs range from 85 to basically 2022. And I think that's a pretty big, pretty big deal. I don't think a lot of bands do that. I know some bands have, but it's not very common anymore. And I think that's a big part of the personality of the new album is that it has such a broad spectrum of songwriting over so many decades. And I think people will like it because I think some people will prefer the newer songs, some people may prefer the older songs. And it's cool, I think, to have you got the old and new and stuff from the 90s mixed in between. So yeah, man, I'm psyched for it. And back to your question, I don't, can't say it's more aggressive or more, more chaotic or more brutal, but it's got the element of decades of time invested in it.
So it'll throw a few punches here and there at you and surprise you.
Yeah, you'll hear things that don't sound like other things, all on the same recording. So I think that's pretty cool.
Before I started this interview, I was listening to this song called Nosferatu and Viral Experience off the album that I have a hard time pronouncing. Starts with letter S.
Syzygial Miscreancy.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a hard-hitting album, dude. There's blast beats throughout the whole thing just about. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. It reminds me of Lee Harrison, which reminds me, he told me to tell you hello.
Oh, cool. Yes, Lee, ex Hellwitch member and great friend, and always a cool guy. For geez, I've known Lee probably 35 years. We've been friends, and as I said, he was in 1988. He was in Hellwitch for a short time. Before he did anything else, he was in Hellwitch. So it's always cool. But yeah, we're gonna be playing that Syzygial Miscreancy in its entirety on the tour.
Oh man, I wish I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully somebody gets some live footage though, that way I can check it out on YouTube.
I'm sure somebody will be filming something, man. They always do.
Yeah, it's not like the 80s where they're holding up lighters during a heavy metal ballad and doing the I love you sign to like Winger or Poison or whatever. But still, man, it's fucking killer. I mean, music's everywhere, right?
Yeah, it's funny too, because I notice now, that COVID is kind of past. Shows are more full. More people are online, checking things out related to music. It just seems like, and tons of bands are touring now because everyone had that long break, and it seems like everybody's doing tours and all the tours are successful. Like I haven't heard of any tours where the band came back and the turnouts were mediocre. Everybody's had really good turnouts, and I'm praying to Satan that we get the same.
I can understand that. But yeah, the last show that I went to was Vader, Crisian, and Decrepit Birth up at the Masquerade in Atlanta. That was one heck of a show, man. I've never seen Crisian play, but I've seen Vader once, and I've seen Decrepit twice. But I've known Lee since 2009, so I've known Lee for 14 years, and he's always been a really good friend to me. Giving me advice on things. He's always telling me, don't give up, keep going. Eventually you'll get there. But if you don't, just keep going anyway.
Yeah. I mean, like I tell people, like I did an interview the other night, and one of the questions is, what keeps you going? And, I hope you don't mind that I'm asking my own question here, Al.
I don't care. Like, go for it, Pat.
What keeps you going? I told him, I'm like, I record the songs that I write because I want to hear how they sound with a studio sound, studio production. And I mean, if people like it, it's fine. If people don't like it and aren't interested, that's fine too. I really, at this point in my life, I'm not, looking for anything. I'm just looking to write songs that I think are badass and hear them with good production. So, hear them for myself, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. But yeah, man. So yeah, I would say if you like what you're writing and you like hearing your music and you think it's good, keep going and going. When it stops being fun and you can't really come up with stuff that you like, then I'd say, well, maybe it's time to hang it up. But I mean, for me, I'm I'm very picky, and I'll take, as you may have gathered, I mean, it may take me a year or two to write a good song. And I mean, in that time, the song goes through maybe half a dozen versions before it gets to a final version. And I mean, I don't compromise on what I come up with. And that's one of the important things I think that comes with anyone writing their own music. Like, come up with things that you can listen back to days later and weeks later and still hear it and say, yeah, that's pretty fucking cool. Because that's one of the tests I use with what I write. If I come back a week later and I think it's okay, it's not that good, I'll scrap it. And then the things that make it into the songs are parts that, pass that test, come back a week later, a month later, listen to it and say, fuck yeah, that's a killer riff, that's a killer part, that's a killer song, and that's kind of my, quality control, so to speak, for what I do.
So it's kind of like putting a jigsaw puzzle together, you know?
Yeah,
Got to get
yeah,
all
it
the right
is.
pieces, otherwise you're going to be missing one or two.
Yeah, and I mean, as I said, like rearranging, having a song 6 different versions before the final, and that also includes like moving the parts around, like this part, maybe sounds better after that part, not before that part. So things like that also, and then where do the solos go? How should the lyrics go with the riffs and things like that? And yeah, I kind of shot myself in the ass on this album a little bit because I wrote the songs and wrote the lyrics and had a rough idea of how they would be put together. And now I'm home practicing and singing and playing the songs. And a couple of the parts are a little more difficult than I thought they were when I wrote them. So yeah, I put myself in a little bit of a spot here, but I'm getting it. I'm practicing it, and it's coming to me.
That's awesome, dude. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, no judgment at all, but I know you said you pray, saying I'll pray to Jesus, but still, everybody's different.
Yeah, hey, I'm not gonna say too many bad things about that. It's
Yeah,
cool.
that's how I feel about you, man. But I like your music. I really do. I dig it. I mean, I've digged it for a long time, and I hope
Oh,
to
thank
catch.
you.
Yeah, I hope to catch up with you in person someday.
Yeah, I guess you mentioned you went to a show in Atlanta.
Yeah, at the Masquerade.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna be playing the Mass Destruction Fest in November in Atlanta.
Well, fucking A,
And
I'll go.
yeah, and we'll be playing the whole first album at that show as well.
Okay, I'll definitely go because
So
I
yeah, man, if you come, definitely come and say hey and whatever, hang out.
absolutely, dude. That'll be
Cool,
a
Al.
blast.
Fuck yeah, we will. Yes.
Ah!
Very well. Good job.
My
Yeah, that's
cat's
it.
into heavy metal, and he's just laying over here like, Dad, are you doing another interview? And I'm like, yes, I am, cat. His name's Frostburger.
That's fuck. My cat is actually outside my office door right now, meowing to come in, and I'm like, no, you can't come in right now. But you're probably not picking it up. But yeah, he's out there. He left now, but our first 5-10 minutes, he was outside the door meowing to come in. So cool, man. Cats are definitely hell spawns, definitely.
Yeah, there's something else, man. They're definitely out of this world.
Yeah, I love them. Love them.
Are there any bands that you're currently listening to that leave you mind blown?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a band, a hardcore band from Italy called ED, and I have a compilation of songs of theirs from like the late 90s to like I guess like 2012, 2013. And their songs from about '03 to '05 are just mind-blowing. It's the most technical punk rock hardcore I've ever heard, and it's just incredible, and I love it. And I've been listening to this CD for probably about 6 years, and I'll leave it alone for a few months and come back to it, and it just puts me in the ground every time I come back to it, man. It's just fucking killer. It's killer and complex and catchy and just great to listen to. And then of course, Demilich from Finland, which is my favorite band, has been for decades. I can listen to Nespith, anytime, and I'm always blown away by that. And I've heard they're working on a new album, so I'm that's one of the things in life that I'm living for right now.
That's really cool, man. That's kind of how I feel about Misery Index. When I first heard Misery Index and the album Retaliate, man, that put me into a predicament where I was like, okay, do I like it? No, this is incredible. I love this. I need more of this. So
that's cool. Yeah, man. It's like when you can make that really soulful connection with the band, that's when, that's what it's all about. That's like, I'm sure, as you remember, when we were, even little kids, and I would jump around listening to whatever my big brothers would put on, like rock and roll, and I always was like, wow, this is great, this is cool.
Yep, with
So
me, with
yeah.
bands like Petra and Striper and Mortification and Tourniquet and Deliverance, Possession. Then when I got into high school, I started hearing Suffocation and Cannibal Corpse and all that other stuff, and I'm like, wow, there's more bands like that. And now it's just like there's even more. Bands like Crusadus, Inhuman Condition, Jeremy Kling's band.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's definitely, the market's pretty saturated these days, I'll definitely say that. I mean, it's I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, it's good because there is more to hear, but the bad thing is a lot of it's kind of crappy. So, it's six of one, half dozen of the other. I mean, for me, back in, 83, 84, when Slayer, when Show No Mercy just came out and we got that, and it was like, wow, nobody sounds like Slayer. And I heard the Angel Witch debut album, and I'm like, wow, nobody sounds like Angel Witch. And I heard Sacred Blade from Canada, and like, wow, nobody sounds like Sacred Blade. And that all kind of, as time went on, as we got into like the 90s, that changed. It, like, everything, a lot of bands started to sound similar and kind of lose their sense of originality. So that's a little bit a little bit of a bummer for me, but I think it's okay, because a lot of people, like, people growing up in the 90s probably like some of those bands that I think are not that original, because to them, they weren't from the 80s, so they think it is original. So, cool, good for them, man. As long as, you're getting the connection with what you're listening to, it's cool.
My next question for you, Pat, would be, I'd like you to take me way back when, like back when you first heard metal music. What was the first band that you heard?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to, because a lot of people, it brings the question of, well, what is metal? I mean, my first album was like, I rode my bike to Osco Drugs and bought Don Kirshner's rock concert compilation album, and that had like Alice Cooper and Black Sabbath. So I mean, I would say it would have to be Black Sabbath, because that was on that album, and that was like 1973 or 74. So I'd say Black Sabbath was the first thing, metal I ever heard. And I have to say, it was the song Paranoid. And I remember, I mean, I was like 10 years old, and I didn't like it. I thought Ozzy's voice was weird. I'm like, what's this guy's voice? His voice doesn't sound like a singer. It sounds just kind of weird. And I thought Black Sabbath kind of sucked when I was a 10-year-old. And then, of course, I got older and, saw the light, so to speak, saw the black light of Black Sabbath. But yeah, man, Black Sabbath. And then you know, fuck AC/DC, Kiss and AC/DC. Those were two early, favorites that were just, every day listening to Kiss and AC/DC, and of course Zeppelin, man. Listen to Zeppelin. I still listen to Zeppelin, and that's a given that they are, they're godly.
Yeah, they're definitely pretty interesting, that's for sure.
Very original, very original.
I've always enjoyed the song Stairway to Heaven, and I try to learn how to play on guitar, but I said, that's technical for its time.
It is. It is. I mean, and then I remember I found out, not to go too far off topic, but I found out that at some point that Jimmy Page used different tunings on his guitar for certain songs. So not only is it difficult to play, but then you have to know what each string is tuned to for that particular song in order to play it. So I just, I mean, I learned some Zeppelin stuff over the years, but some of the songs with the oddball tunings, and I don't just mean like tuning low or tuning high. I mean, each string was tuned to a certain note, so, the song could be played. And that really impressed me. That's always really impressed me.
Yeah, that's definitely mind-boggling, because with me personally, I play in D standard, but then I play in drop C.
Okay.
Yeah, some songs that I've written are in drop C, and then there's some that are just in D standard. And I like to switch it up a little bit, gives the listener a little bit more to go with, I guess you could say.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, we've always used standard E tuning.
Yeah.
Just regular tuning. I mean, I tried when we heard Slayer, and I tried tuning down a little bit, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it sounded, and that was it. I never explored it again. And then that might have been a good thing, because as time went on, I noticed engineers like Scott Burns. We're recording Syzygial Miscreancy with Scott Burns at Morris Sound, and he's like, "Oh, what do you guys tune to?" And I'm like, "Just standard tuning." And he's like, "You're the riffs are gonna come through, like," he goes, "everyone's gonna hear every note." He's like, "It's gonna be so clear." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "If you tune down, you can lose clarity of technical parts." And I said, "Well, yeah, we definitely have some technical parts." And he said, "Yeah, it's good that you have, that you're use standard tuning." And I was like, "Wow, okay, cool. That worked out."
Yeah, I don't know too much about Scott Burns, but I've heard some stories from the Cannibal Corpse TV called Centuries of Torment.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
I
funny.
have not watched it all the way through, but yeah, Scott Burns, he was the legend, he definitely was the legend.
It's funny because I love hearing people impersonate Scott's voice. Hi, I'm Scott Burns. How you doing? And does that sound
Yeah.
kind of close to it?
Yeah, it's been a long time, Al. I don't know, man. Honestly, when we were there, I thought he sounded really normal. Like, he wasn't someone that had a voice where you're like, "Whoa, that dude's got a very unique voice." Like, we thought he just sounded pretty, you know, unlike John from Incantation, who has a unique voice that is, imitatable to some degree.
I've never heard his speaking voice, but he growls really good.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's good. It's good that he sings now. I'm happy for that.
Yeah, he's a legend for sure.
Oh, yes, John is a great guy too. Another dude I've known for probably been friends for probably 25, 26 years now. Or no, I'm sorry, 35 years. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. 3.5 decades worth of music. Keep
Yeah,
it going, guys. Keep it going. Because it'll make me
always.
even harder the next time I hear it.
Yes, yes.
Well, I got a few more questions for you. I've only got about
Sure.
8.5 minutes left with you tonight, Pat. But
Okay.
what's the craziest thing that you've ever seen at a show happen?
The craziest thing I've ever seen at a show. Mm, man, a couple a couple come to mind. One is we played with DRI in Orlando, Florida in '87. And we were at that point we started in Gainesville, Florida, which is where the University of Florida is, which is we were all three of us were college students at UF, and that's how how I met the other members of the band and kind of got the band going. But we left Gainesville to play, like an hour and a half away in Orlando, and it was a lot of skinhead dudes. And we've seen skinheads at our shows in Gainesville, and everyone, they were pretty cool. Like everyone was cool, never really any problems. And during DRI, our bass player at that time, Andy, we were in the pit and he got knocked down, and like 5 dudes started kicking him. And I had never seen anything like that. And I ran over and grabbed him like by the arms and just pulled him away, pulled him away from everyone, dragged him away so he could at least try to get up. And, I dragged him away and I screamed at these dudes to fucking knock it off. And I helped him up, and he was roughed up, man. He had a big black eye, like his eye was almost swollen shut. And I just, man, it was horrible. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, shit like this doesn't happen in Gainesville, like people don't act like that. And it was kind of an introduction to, what certain groups of dudes will do at shows, or what certain individuals will do at shows. You got to kind of watch your ass sometimes and gauge the crowd. And, if you see bad shit going on, you kind of, steer clear, or, be aware of your surroundings, and so that was a really fucked up thing that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen at a show. And then we played a show in Gainesville around that time, and a drunk when we were in Gainesville, we only opened for punk bands. Those were the only tours coming to Gainesville, were like COC, DRI, DeKreutzen, Battalion of Saints, Gangrene, Exploited. We played with all those bands. And this drunken punk dude climbed up on the stage as we're playing, and he hugged my legs, and he hugged his arms, and he was crawling on the floor, and he crawled up and he hugged around my legs, around my feet. And he like, and I started to lose my balance, and I'm starting to like, try to kick my feet, and he hugged my feet very tightly, and he wouldn't let go, and I fell down during the middle of it. Yeah, and this our like roadie friend Chris, he came and like dragged the guy off of me, and I got up and continued. But yeah, that was I didn't see that one coming. It was pretty bizarre.
The stories of being dragged around.
Yeah, man, happen at shows, that's for sure. And then, of course, seen a couple of my friends do a floor dive. They went to do a dive, and you got that's the thing about stage diving. You got to catch the crowd by surprise, or you're going to do a floor dive. And
yeah, you're going to face plant.
It was like a 5-foot stage, and he dove right onto the floor. And I helped him up, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What the fuck are you thinking, dude?" I'm like, "You got to act like you're going left and then dive right, so you land on a cushion of people."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good bit of advice for all your viewers and listeners.
Yeah, if you're gonna stage dive, do it the right way.
Yeah, fake left, dive right.
Or you could fake right and dive left.
Very good. You get the picture, Al. You get the picture.
Yes, very much so. Vice versa, most definitely. What would you like to say to your fans out there, Pat?
Well, thanks for 40 years of support, everyone that has listened to Hellwitch and continues to listen and will listen in the future. And come out hopefully and see us on this run of shows we're doing. If it's within a couple hour drive, maybe you can drive out and check it out. And just keep enjoying it, and let me know if it sucks. If you think it's sucking, tell me that it's sucking, and I'll try to make it better. But I like I said, I have pretty high standards for myself, so hopefully it doesn't suck.
I don't think it will, man. I think you guys will pull it off pretty well.
I'm grateful to people like you, Al, who want to take time out and talk to me about, the music, our music and the scene and whatnot, and the old school days. I love talking about that shit. And yeah, I'm grateful, man, because as you probably know, Hellwitch, isn't like a huge band. So I'm grateful for any support we get, definitely.
Absolutely, man. My pleasure.
Yeah, cool.
I'm pretty sure it won't suck. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
But
Yeah, hopefully it won't.
what's that?
Hopefully if I write any more songs, then they won't suck, and hopefully this new album, people won't think it sucks.
Well, it sucks the most out of anything are vacuum cleaners.
So,
You know what? It
yeah,
sucks better than a vacuum cleaner? A better vacuum cleaner.
that's great. That's
But
fucking great.
how about
Yeah.
this? What sucks worse than a vacuum cleaner?
Uh, Worse than a vacuum cleaner. I give up.
A broken one.
That's rough. That's pretty rough, Al.
I
Those are like
know.
those are like my father-in-law's jokes.
They are dad jokes. I was the one that came up with them, dude.
Great. That's great, man.
You'll have to tell them those. But my last question for you, Pat, do you have any last words for Underground Noise Webzine?
Yeah, well, good luck to you, Al, and Underground Noise Webzine. I mean, people need to support the more underground, smaller publications and, online publications, and not just, not just go on the blabbermouth sites to get your information. Go, seek out the underground shit and listen to that, because that's where a lot of times you'll get the unadulterated truth, as opposed to the watered down truth, as it were. And yeah, keep on support Hellwitch if you feel it's worth it. If you don't, then go fuck yourself. And hopefully everybody will like the new album, and people that like the old album will be playing the whole thing on this tour, and all the upcoming festivals we're doing this year. We'll be playing that, so hopefully we'll bring some fucking enjoyment and some brutality to people's lives.
Right on, Pat. Stay brutal.
Ah!
Arr.
Yes, I will, Al. Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for your time.
Sure, thank you. You're welcome.